Hi there, and welcome to the Shulk Ignite Web Development course, Session 0. So this is the recording that's available to people who missed Session 0. If you did, please follow through and just get everything set up for yourself so that you can be ready for Session 1. So just as a disclaimer, when we do go into the sessions, that we will be recording the sessions and uploading them to YouTube. We also might take some screenshots for social media, but we won't record any of the breakout rooms. So when you do go into different breakout rooms, all of that won't be recorded. You can feel free to be a bit more open when you're in there. So during the session, what we're going to talk about is just broadly what Shulk Ignite is and kind of what our goals are as an organization. And then on top of that, we're going to talk about an overview of the program content, some of the places to contact us, and some of the resources and information that you're going to need for this course. And then on top of that, about the end of Session Gala, getting your environment set up, and then if you were here in person, then games with your mentor. So Shulk Ignite is a program that's a student-run program at the University of Calgary that's designed to help get people have their passion ignited for coding. Our intention is to have people come out and to learn about coding and to become more proficient coders and just be able to go out and write code. And with that, what I'll say is that we'll let our president do the talking because I think he'll have some better words for you than I can.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Shulk Ignite. It's a pleasure to have all of you here today. My name is Abuda Bass, and I'm the current president at Shulk Ignite. So if you didn't know, Shulk Ignite is actually a club at the University of Calgary that aims to ignite a passion for programming in high school students, as well as university students and even youth in general. So we actually offer 3 different sessions: the beginner session, advanced session, as well as a web development session. And in the beginner session, you can expect to learn a lot about the fundamentals of the programming language, Python. And as part of the advanced session, you can expect to learn more about object-oriented programming in Python, how to use it in software projects, and much, much, much more. As for the web development session, you will be able to learn more about the static websites, how to build them, how to manage them, and how to deploy them. And so we please ask of you, if you're taking the advanced session or the web development session, that you do have some previous coding experience, as those sessions will cover more complex topics. So talking more about the sessions, the time span of this program is actually 8 weeks. And by participating in this program, our mission at Ignite is to be able to help you design and build a coding project from scratch, basically, that you can show off to your family and friends. So we do have a lot of projects from previous students featured on our Instagram page, so feel free to check those out to get some idea on what to expect. And of course, to start thinking about what your final project will look like, as it's always better to get started on that sooner than later. Also, you will be paired with a mentor, so you can expect to work with your mentors as well as other students in your group during the work sessions that we will have organized for you in all the different workshops across the 8 weeks to help you practice some of the concepts that you will learn in the actual lectures. You can expect those mentors to be undergraduate or even graduate students in different fields of study, such as engineering, computer science, and even other majors too. Also, some of the mentors might actually be on their internship. So what that means is that they might actually be doing their work experience term. And so it's a really, really great chance for you to network with these individuals to gain insight regarding the tech world. And so it's a great opportunity for you to start building your network right now. And I absolutely encourage you to not hold back if you have any questions for your mentors, as they are very, very knowledgeable. And in the past, we've had mentors that worked at Amazon, Google, and so many more famous tech companies. Talking more about networking, an exciting event that I will want all of you guys to look forward to is the Shulk Ignite Gala event. And this event is where you will have a chance to present your project to your mentors, other students, your guests, and industry speakers, which in the past came from Google, AMD, Bell, Cisco, and other exciting tech companies as well. So you can get a great insight on how it is to be working in the tech field as a software developer and what it's like to be as a software developer at a big tech company. So throughout the 8 week sessions, there will also be additional opportunities and events that you can attend. These will be arranged by your executive team here at Shulk Ignite. And I highly encourage you all to attend these events, take full advantage of this opportunity, as it can really allow you to gain invaluable information and skills. So I really want all of you to benefit from this program as much as you possibly can. And the only way that you can do this is by being proactive and participating in all the sessions, as well as additional events that we will have throughout the term. With that, I do wish you all the best with your experience at Shulk Ignite, and I hope that you are able to make the most out of this great opportunity. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any one of us, whether it's through your mentors or just the Ignite executive team. We're all here to help you out and to ensure your experience is incredible. I'd also like to thank our mentors, the Ignite executive team, sponsors, Dr. Mosherpur and Dr. Beja for all the amazing work that they do here at Shulk Ignite and for being involved for the past couple of years with Shulk Ignite. And they also make it possible for us to have these sessions for sure. And thank you to all our mentees, you guys, the students, for being involved with Ignite. I hope you all have a great first session at Ignite, and I look forward to connecting with you all for the next 8 sessions. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your day.
Perfect. And so with that, we will keep going. So let's talk about this program. So for the web development course, generally speaking, by the end of the course, we will want you guys to be able to create a website either from scratch or using a template, and we'll show you a couple ways of actually getting those templates itself and sourcing resources to make your websites go a little bit of that step beyond, and basically be able to take it from just the regular development all the way up to deployment. So having a website that's actually available for other people to view and all the fundamentals that are involved with that. On top of that, we want you guys to be able to understand what's actually happening in the browser when you visit a web page. So when you hit schulukignite.com, you hit google.com, you hit YouTube, you hit wherever you are, you actually understand what's going on and you have the tools available to you in the browser. And just by visually seeing to understand kind of what's happening and be able to break down the web page when you get there. We also want to give you guys an idea of some industry practices that are going to make you more effective at web development, where to pick your resources from, like I mentioned earlier, but also just like what are some of the common practices that people actually engage in industry to make things sort of iterate a bit quicker and be able to develop websites more quickly and more effectively. On top of that, we want to be able to give you guys an idea of where the web development skills can be used outside of just web development, because surprisingly enough, a lot of the things that we're going to be teaching you are actually just generally good things in programming to know about. Things like markup languages, stuff like that, that are used across the board in basically every field, to be entirely honest with you, as far as development goes, not just web development. So yeah, very transferable skills, even if you're not necessarily interested in going into web development down the road. Which then brings us to the next question of why bother to learn web development at all? And so one of the good reasons is actually just the universality. So like I mentioned, not only are websites just used, like the web technologies that we're going to be learning used to make websites, but they're also used to make things like car dashboards. So for example, the car dashboards that you see where you can touch and go through and pick like your media controls, change your Bluetooth devices, all that sort of stuff, are often written in the same technologies that we're going to be using throughout the course, namely JavaScript, HTML, CSS, sometimes not necessarily HTML, sometimes it's something else called XML, but essentially the same principles that we're going to be learning throughout this course. Same thing with operating systems, and same thing with mobile apps as well. So a lot of these systems all use the exact same ideas for sort of setting up your UI and everything that you see on the screen, and the ways that is done is the exact same as what you'd see in typical website development. On top of that, even some places that you're probably not expecting. Hardware integration, such as printers. Printers oftentimes will use a lot of the same sort of languages that we're going to be using to create their style sheets and actually change the way that you display things through the printer and when it gets actually printed out. And same thing with like game UI. A ton of the UI that's written for AAA games these days is actually written in JavaScript and uses XML on top of that, which is a lot of the technologies that we're going to be learning how to use as well. Another reason is just the popularity of the jobs. Web development is probably, at least the skills in web development, are probably the fastest growing sector for developers in general. There are tons of people needed who have web development skills. Even other jobs that don't necessarily involve web development will require you to have the skills that you're going to learn here. Generally speaking, it makes a pretty good amount of money. We have 50 to 85K per year mentioned here, but I previously received offers for over $115,000 for doing some development, maintaining systems in the financial sector and stuff like that. So there's definitely a ton of availability for jobs and a ton of good options to be able to make things. And on top of that, just being able to create your own works. So the practicality and the creativity aspect of this. It's probably one of the easiest ways to build and distribute something is through the web, because basically everything has a browser. Some people's fridges have a browser. Some, like most people have a phone. They'll have something that's able to get to a browser. Whereas traditional sort of development and stuff like that, when you're trying to distribute something, you typically have to pick the places that you want to distribute it to. Whereas for the web, basically anything with web browser will be able to get access to whatever you're trying to do. And and it can be designed and for any systems you can imagine that you can do on the web. So messaging, making games, marketing, tourism, all these sorts of things. The skills that you're going to be building here, realistically, if you wanted to at the end of this course, you could go out and you could start doing your own contracts to build people's websites for them. It just gives you a ton of creativity and freedom to be able to create whatever you want and any of the experiences that you want to distribute to people. So let's start talking about the actual overview of the course more practically. So in the first session, we're going to talk about the basics of HTML and CSS. the second session, we're going to start talking about advanced CSS and then introduce JavaScript. If you don't know what those are, don't worry, we'll talk about it during the sessions. Session 3, we're going to talk about vendoring resources and HTML templates. So this is going to be how to take some other people's code and use it in our own projects to create better projects quicker. On top of that, we're going to be talking about, in session 4, how to use advanced JavaScript, so how to actually implement more complicated functionality in the browser using some libraries that are available. And then during session 5, we're going to talk about static site generators, which is a system that exists for making websites a little bit more quickly, and it'll also teach you how to use templating languages, which are used in a ton of different places in the web. And then session 6, we're going to talk about how to deploy sites and talk a little bit about CI/CD. And then session 7, currently the plan is that we're going to do a putting it together session where I'm going to go through and just give you guys an example of us building a site together as we're workshopping it in the course. And then session 8, we're going to have a question session. That's currently the plan. So basically for that session, if you guys have questions about something, bring it forward and we'll just go ahead and talk about it. So it could be something that's in the industry. So if you have questions about sort of different web technologies that exist, or if you have questions about the University of Calgary, or if you have questions about the job market, anything like that, as far as development goes. Basically, you can just bring those all to that session, and we'll just kind of keep it as an open form Q&A, where you guys can ask questions, and we'll try to answer them from there, and sort of cover any topics that we weren't able to cover from here, just so we have a better idea of what people are interested in for the next set of sessions that are going on as well. So let's do a quick sneak peek of what we're going to be building. So this is a sneak peek of what we're going to be done building by the end of session 2, for example. So yeah, this is what you can expect to have built by the end of session 2. By the end of session 3, we'll be working with, like I said, some extra templates. So we'll be basically building on top of these templates to build out systems that look like this. And then by the end of session 4, we'll be doing JavaScript to be able to do the fancier sort of functionality you can see here, where it's filtering, and then when you actually come into these blog posts, you can see there's syntax highlighting on all of the text that's available there. And then also this fancy system here that we've called Create a Page, which is basically where you're going to go through and create a web page by using an in-page text editor that will allow you to create the content that you want to create. And then at the end of it, you'll be able to export it out to HTML as its own web page. And that's basically what we're going to be building throughout the entirety of session 4. So you can see here, once I hit that button, it'll save, and we can open it up, and now we have another HTML document that has our content from inside that editor previously. So yeah, lots of really cool projects, and you'll have a lot of stuff that you'll be able to share afterwards for sure. The link to our website is going to be available here, so that's going to be shulukandknight.com. If we actually come to the website here, and you come under Sessions, and then you go to Ignite Web Dev, you'll see here we have the sessions showing up here, and under this each session you can see we have View the Slides. You can click here, and you'll be able to see the set of slides that are available there. These will show up the day of each session, so you'll be able to see them on here. And once we have recordings available, you'll see there'll be a little play icon that shows up right here next to it, which will have a link to the video recording in case you miss a session, so that you don't fall too far behind. Next, we have Discord. So right now, there's currently some problems going on with our Discord bot, so we will actually come back to this during session 1 once we have all the kinks worked out. But yes, we will be using Discord down the road, and that will be available for you to ask your mentor questions outside of class time if you have any questions about stuff that you're working on. So that'll be available there. These details we will deal with on session 1, just because, like I said, we're having issues right now. So okay, now the last thing one of the next things to talk about is the end of session gala. So at the end of the 8 weeks, we will be having a gala where you'll be able to show off projects. So in this case, we've put in here that you can show off your final project. We'll actually be building multiple sites by the end of this course. So like I said, we'll have several sites that will be built by the end of this course. You can choose any of those, or if you want to take these the information that we've given you and build out your own site out of your own interest and go from there, then you can also just show that off at the gala. The gala is a great place to go because we'll have a ton of people who are coming in who are software engineering industry professionals. So we've had people from Google, Microsoft, AMD, a ton of other places come in. They also often give really interesting talks about the current work that they're doing, and you get the opportunity to meet with them, network with them, and potentially help you get a job in the future. So enough talking, let's start getting your environment set up so that you're ready to go for session 1. So the first thing is we're going to need a browser. Big surprise for a web development course. Specifically though, we are going to need a Chromium browser. So if you use something like Firefox, Safari, or other browsers besides Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, it is highly recommended that you go through and download and install Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. The problem that you currently have if you choose to do something else is that if anything breaks because of compatibility reasons between the browsers, we're not going to be able to help you debug it because we're not going to be using the same browser as you. So please go ahead and install a Chromium-based browser. Like I said before, if you go to the Schulkignite site, you should be able to find the link to the slides, and you can find a link here to be able to download Google Chrome if you can't find it somewhere else. On top of that, we then will need to install Python. So specifically, we will need Python version 3.7 plus, and we will need pip for Python. So in this case, pip is essentially a package manager for Python. There are guides for all three systems for how to install these, so you'll need to come through on the slides and set that up yourself. The way that you'll be able to tell if it works is that if you are on Windows, you can just go ahead and open up a CMD, and you can see it right here. And if we go ahead and we type in Python, we can see that we get a number that pops up here. Python 3.10 is showing up. We can press Command Z or Control Z to break out of that. And then also when we type in pip, we can see this show up here, all this sort of information pop up here. If you are on Linux or you're on macOS, you'll need to do Python 3 like that, or you will need to do, you'll need to do pip 3 as well for pip. And you should, pip 3, and it should show up for you. So once you have all of that set up, then you'll know that you're good to go. These video guides will actually walk you through the steps of doing that on each operating system from there. Next, we will need EasyCV. So like I said, you'll need to have pip installed as well, and so that's where this is going to come in. So basically, you're just going to come to the command line, and if you are using macOS or Linux, you'll need to use pip3, and you'll need to go pip3 install EasyCV, or alternatively, if you're on Windows, axe the 3 at the end there, and just do pip install EasyCV. And then it'll go through, it'll do a whole bunch of things, download a bunch of stuff, and get it all set up. This will be a package that we're using on session 5 onwards, so you'll need to make sure that you have it installed. And the way that you can check that it's installed is if you now type at the command line EasyCV, like that, then you'll see this command should pop up with all this information. If you get an error saying that it can't find the command EasyCV, then you've had a problem installing it, and you need to go through and try and get it sorted out and install from there. Alrighty. Next, we have VS Code. So you can use any IDE. I would highly recommend using VS Code. It has a ton of features built in specifically for web development that are really good, and it'll be the system that everybody's using here. So if you do run into any problems with your editor down the road and you're using something other than VS Code, you're going to have to figure it out yourself because we're not going to try and figure out how to use a different editor for you. So I would highly recommend using VS Code. To download it, just go ahead to code.visualstudio.com, and there'll be a couple different options for downloading. So Windows, there's also Linux distributions available for Debian and for any Fedora-based systems. If you're using anything else, there are some extra tarballs here if you need to download the binaries for that. Otherwise, there's also an installer for macOS as well. And then basically, once you get it all set up, I'll just go ahead and I'll pop open VS Code. So actually, here, let's do this. On Windows, you can actually just pop this open here, and you can type in, you can start typing in Visual Studio Code, and it should pop up. And from here, all that you're going to need, we're just going to close the desktop there, is go into your extensions, and you're going to type in Python. And you have two options here. You can either install this first one that's by Microsoft, which will just install just the Python extension, nothing else. It'll just give you syntax highlighting, and that's it. Or if you want something a little bit fancier, you can install the Python extension pack. This will actually download a couple of other things that are super helpful that you'll see me using a lot. So this will have like Jinja stuff built in, which is what we're going to be using later on. And it'll have some other stuff built into there that's super helpful. So I would recommend installing this. You just basically come up here, hit install, it'll go through and it'll download everything for you from there. So once you have VS Code installed, what we're going to do here is if you actually just create a folder on your desktop if you're on Windows, so you just go ahead, create a new folder, call it whatever you want. So I'll just call this folder. Sorry, this is a little bit above where you're seeing. So if I've just created a new folder and I've just called it folder, so you can see it right there. It's just hiding right behind there. So you can see I have a new folder called folder. On Windows, typically you can right click and then just hit open with code. Otherwise, what you can do is you can do what we just did before, where you go ahead and you click the Windows icon and then you type in Visual Studio, and it'll pop up Visual Studio Code. And then from here, we're just going to actually close this editor like that, and then you should be able to go to Open Folder. And then from there, you just go through and find your folder. So if I come to the desktop and I come through here and I go into my desktop and then I click folder, hit select folder, it'll go ahead and it'll pop up in Visual Studio Code for me. When it pops open, you'll see this, do you trust the authors of the file? You can just check that box off and just hit yes. None of your extensions will activate unless you do that, so make sure you do that. And then from here, we can check if our system is working by just clicking this little new file button and then just saying hello.py, which is the Python extension. And we can say from math import star. And if you're seeing these different things light up as you're going, so you're seeing the from and the math and like all that stuff all light up, then it means that you're doing it correctly. Right now it's just installing all this information, so I can't see anything else from there, but you should see here, just should say module math, all that stuff. That means that everything is working correctly. Okay, so next off we have GitHub. So we're not going to be touching Git in terms of like using it at the command line for anybody who's kind of scared of doing that. If you're interested, GitHub is basically a version control system. There are more details available at this video that we recorded previously right here that you can watch, and that'll give you some information about Git in general and a little bit more about GitHub and what it does. But we are going to be using it entirely through the web interface, so we don't have to worry about learning anything about how Git works or anything like that. But if you're interested, there's a video here for you. But what we will need to do is set up a GitHub account. So you're just going to go ahead and head to github.com/signup. And from there, basically just enter your email, password, do the I'm Not a Robot quiz. Basically, it's just a standard account setup. You're just going to basically create your account. And then at some point, they will send an email to your email address. And then you just have to enter a code to confirm your email address. Once you've completed it, you should see something that looks like this, where you have your whatever your username is right here, and you should see something that looks very similar to that. Please keep in mind that when you are creating your GitHub account, that whatever your account name is will show up in the URL if you decide not to get a custom domain. So if you do decide to pick a username, try to keep it to a medium level of spiciness when you're going there, because it will show up in the URL at the end of the day. So next, we have the actual code for our sessions. So each session will have its own code for a lot of the starter exercises and stuff like that. So it'll have like the code to get you started with. So if we come here and we come to this link, it'll take a second. Essentially, this is what's called a Github Repository. This is a very fancy name for a file folder, essentially. So you can imagine that's like a folder that has a ton of other folders inside of it. So if we go ahead and look at this, for example, there's like a day 0 folder that has some files in it and whatnot. So what we're going to do here is when we're just at the main top level, so if you just click this, it'll take you back to the main top level, and we just go ahead and we hit code, and then we hit download zip. This will download a zip file for us, and then we just need to extract that zip file, and then inside there'll be a web course files main folder inside there. So what we're going to do here, I'm just going to delete this because it was on my desktop previously. I'm just going to go ahead and drag this out, and we can see here now it's there. And we can check and verify that we did this correctly, because we should be able to double click inside this folder here. There should be a ton of other files, and if we come inside day 0 and underside exercises, there will be a test.html file that we can click, and we'll see welcome to the course show up on the left hand side here, or on the right, sorry. Now basically, for your information for the next set of sessions, there will be 2 folders inside every session. So there'll be examples and exercises. Examples is going to be exactly what you imagine. When you see examples in the slides, they'll show up in the examples folder, and exercises and the starter code for each of those exercises is going to be available inside exercises as we go through. Okay. And then basically, as long as you have that showing up, then you've done it correctly and you downloaded everything. Make sure to keep it in somewhere that you're going to be able to find later on, just so that we don't have to wait for everybody to re-download it every session. And now, if we were doing this live, then we would go through into breakout rooms and do troubleshooting. If you are running into issues, you can feel free to send messages. Please try and get your environment up and running before session 1. We will not be spending time after session 1 trying to debug your environment to get it all set up. So please make sure that everything is set up ahead of time before you get into session 1. And then at this point, we would spend some time for you to get to know your mentors. But since we're finished and we're not doing this live, I'm just going to skip through that. So the first session is going to be on October 14th from 6 to 7:30, and it's going to be every Friday after that until the last session, which is December 2nd. And once we get our Discord bot set up, we'll get you guys to join the Discord and get everything set up. But that is it for the time being. So thank you for coming, and we'll see you in session 1.